Good morning, and thank you very much for everybody for turning up on this fresh Tuesday morning. Today we are hosting an event for sales and marketing mistakes to avoid with our guest speaker, Richard Liverman of Richard Solutions. I'd just like to welcome everybody online. Hopefully you can all see and hear this. I will be administering the online questions separately, so questions and answers will be at the end, if we may. So I'm Brian Pennell from Smarter Society. Some of you may recognise me from the where I'm walking around North Northamptonshire, signing people up and engagement. Obviously telling them about the programme. Smarter Society is working with North Northamptonshire Council to deliver a programme that will help businesses to thrive. The NN Business Programme is open to all retail businesses in North Northamptonshire. Our high street mentoring is already underway with some great feedback and enthusiasm from all participants. We've already spoken about where the exits are and the toilets. So before we get started, I'd like to introduce Greg Ward, who's the Principal Regeneration Officer at North Northamptonshire Council, who has a few words to say. Thank you very much, Greg.
Thanks, Brian, and good morning, colleagues, and welcome to East Northants House Council Chamber, whether you are in the room or indeed online. I'm Greg Ward and work in the Economic Growth and Sustainability team at North Northamptonshire Council, and I just wanted to help set the scene before handing over to Richard. It's been a tough few years with all of the different economic shocks that have successively hit businesses in the UK, and not least the trading conditions for high street and retail businesses. This is why I'm so pleased that North Northamptonshire Council are working with Smarter Society, who are delivering the Retail Business Support Programme for the local area. So thank you for coming today and taking the time to invest in your business, and also for investing in North Northamptonshire's as a small and medium enterprises are the driving force for growth in North Northamptonshire. Thanks. And now over to Richard for the main event.
Thank you, Greg. Hello, my name's Richard. We're going to be talking about mistakes in sales and marketing, and I can guarantee that we've all made plenty. I know I have. The plan today is to sort of share with you some thinking, some ideas on how to avoid them rather than how to make them. This is me. I'm Richard. I run my own business, doing business consultancy, coaching and mentoring. And what I've done on this side is you've got all of my contact details on there. And one of the things that I love about a session like this is the opportunity to network. And what's great is the people who are with us are already chatting to each other, which is fantastic. If you're online, please get in the chat and start sharing your social media with each other. One of the things that I like very much about living where we live is the way that our community supports each other. And one of the great ways we can support each other is sharing social media posts, supporting other local businesses. So please, if online, get in the chat, share your social details. And again, the same here. And then if we see each other's work, please let's support it. It's a great way of helping businesses thrive. So a little bit about myself and my background. I'm really lucky. I've worked on some quite interesting brands with my career, and what's fascinating is what can you learn from them. And I started my career at Sainsbury's. I've worked on all kinds of big brands, and they all make lots of sales and mistakes. Lots of sales and lots of mistakes. And one of the questions is, what can we learn from them? And that's sort of the point of what we're trying to do today. So hopefully, from my experience, we can get some learnings and sort of some fresh thinking on this. And I was trying to find a good quote, and I found this one from Oscar Wilde. Experience is simply the name we give to our mistakes. But if that's the case, I've got made a hell of a lot of mistakes. And well done, Oscar Wilde, because I quite like that one. So the plan for today very much is to look at ways that we can build sales, we can build some of your marketing skills, we can avoid being boring, because I think being boring is a really big mistake lots of businesses make. How can we improve your social media? And how can we avoid mistakes, such as going to the smallest pub on the planet, and there was literally one person serving? And what you'll see is there's going to be a lot of pictures. Sadly, they're all of me. But hopefully you can see that that's a mistake and we can avoid it. So don't put pictures of me in your presentations. So one of my favorite questions I like to ask businesses is, who's in charge of sales in your business? And it's an open question. And the most common answer is, well, it's the sales team. The sales team are in charge of sales. No, they're not. No, they're not at all. And I think it's a mistake to think that sales is down to one person. It's down to everyone in the organization, because everyone is responsible for sales. And people say, well, what do you mean by that? And I think it's really important that we remember that sales pay the bills. So everyone is responsible for that in an organization. And even the support functions are responsible for that. And there's a lovely story from Disneyland. And it came from, they were doing some research. Why are the cleaners in Disneyland failing to clean their areas? Because they're giving them enough time to do it. So they started watching the cleaners. And what they discovered was that guests were coming up to them, excuse me, where is the castle? And they'd be like, well, round the corner, take a left. In fact, we'll take you there. And what they realized was that the cleaners were responsible for making Disney the happiest place on earth. I would say it's the most expensive place on earth, but other opinions are available. What was really interesting was everybody was responsible for that experience. And I think it's the same in a business. Everyone is responsible for sales. You can't just leave it to the sales team. How you greet people, how you talk to people is so important. I think everybody has to take that collective responsibility. I kind of find it really frustrating when people say, oh, I'm a sales ninja. Bruce Lee's a ninja. Nobody else can really call themselves that. But I think there's some really good examples of, where sales and customer service almost become one. And I've used the example where people make a first impression within less than a second. And we all know the stroppy receptionist at the doctor's surgery, but we also, being British, we obviously know about the stroppy ones, but I want to highlight some really good places. If you ever go to Center Parcs, what I really like about their customer service proposition is everyone's responsible for sales. Everyone's responsible for the customer experience. John Lewis is another great example where you're going to bump into somebody in a suit that knows what they're talking about. And I think what's really interesting is everybody's responsible for sales. But you don't have to be a big organization to do that. And I've used the example of one of my favorite places in the world, Crafty Burger in Leicester. It's brilliant. I found good food in Leicester. It took me a long time. Here is Crafty Burger. It's in St. Martin's Square, where it's called St. Martin's Coffee Shop. And the reason I'm highlighting them is they were doing personalization before it was fashionable. So if any of you are in the county and you've ever gone to Starbucks on the edge of Corby, one of the most expensive places. I mean, it's up there with Disneyland for expensive. And they'll write your name on the coffee cup and shout it out. These guys were doing it years before. And I love the personalized experience you get. I love the fact that you get to know the staff and they get to know who you are. You walk in and they know your order before you do. And for me, this is what I mean about everybody being responsible for sales. It doesn't matter who you are within that organization, making eye contact with a customer, actually having that conversation, builds relationships. And that's why I'm talking about Crafty Burger in Leicester in the same way that I talk about John Lewis and Center Parcs, because they're excellent. But when we talk about everybody being responsible for sales, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine on Instagram. His name's Captain Chris, and he's quite a character. He's got a blue tick, which he's very proud of, And he's a pilot for Virgin Atlantic. He has over 400,000 followers. And he trains pilots as well as flying all over the world. I'm sort of very, very jealous of his social media account because they're just gorgeous pictures everywhere. He did a campaign at the end, well, during lockdown, because a lot of people were worried about their jobs in the airline industry. And he did a campaign with a hashtag saying, buy airline tickets like you bought toilet paper. And it kind of went a bit viral. And when I sort of first got hold of Captain Chris, or we started chatting online, he had about 20,000 followers, just like pictures of everywhere he went. And he did this campaign. And it sort of grew and grew and grew. It ended up in sort of newspapers all over the world. It was great PR, great customer engagement. Virgin Atlantic didn't ask him to do this. He just told his story. And what's really interesting is if you follow his account, and you should follow his account because it's educational, funny, and there's gorgeous pictures. I mean, why wouldn't you want to follow an account like that? A bit like mine. No, it's not. His is way better. But what I like about it is everybody in that company is responsible for sales. He could have just sat at home with furlough, but he went, do you know, I'm responsible for my passengers. And I think this is the kind of message that I want to get over, that everybody is responsible for sales. And how can you share your respective business journeys? So, you know, you can talk about it, and we'll come on to social media later, because I think social media is a great way of doing this. But there's another mistake, and I think this is a really, really funny one. Hard selling is the best way. And I think we've all seen kind of The Apprentice, and we've kind of seen the Wolf of Wall Street. Sell me this pen, and this kind of aggressive sales. And I think there's always that bit where sometimes if we're struggling with sales, we do get a little bit panicky and we're like, right, we're going to try really hard and we're going to go down the hard sales route. I think sales has changed and evolved. And I think British people, we're not so keen on hard sales. Although it's always funny in America watching people being sold to. So I think they kind of like it. But I think us in the UK, we're a little bit more reserved. But there is an alternative way. And somebody might recognise this shop. And I put this in here. This is the Wine Chateau in Wellingborough, and we're delighted to be joined by one of their team. And I put this in here because I went in to do some coaching and mentoring and ended up buying 2 bottles of wine. That's not because I'm an alcoholic or I like good wine, which the second one more true. What really impressed me was that you didn't sell. You told stories. This bottle of wine, it's slightly different because they harvest the grapes at night, so it's less sugary. And it was a brilliant story. And this bottle here comes from the largest underground cellar in the world. There's over 1 million bottles in there. It was all about storytelling, and it brought the product to life. And I drank it that night and again on Friday night. But what I liked about it was the idea of storytelling. And I think there are ways that you can do this that sort of bring customers in. And instead of it being a hard sell, you're just telling stories about stuff that you're interested in. And again, there's a different way of thinking about it. So I was asked some questions. What kind of things do you like? What meal are you going to have with it? You know, and by asking questions, what we were doing was we were helping people to buy. So instead of selling, how do you help people to buy your product? And it's exactly the same thing, but a different twist on it. And I think it's a lot less, it's easier for people to understand, because then it becomes about solving people's problems. And then it's up to them to buy the product. So maybe instead of calling people a sales assistant, maybe it's a help people out assistant. And it's just a different mindset, but it will get you the results. And here's the perfect proof. And I put a link there. Go on the website, but be careful, because there are a lot of brilliant things. So go and please check them out. Wine Chateau in Wellingborough. They deliver nationally. Checks in the post. So I thought, being in Northamptonshire, we had to talk about Northamptonshire's favourite breakfast deal, Weetabix, grown and made just down the road from where I'm stood. And there's a really brilliant question. Who is Weetabix's biggest customer? And there's a reason I asked that, because I want you to think about who your customers are. And when we said who's Weetabix's biggest customer, the most common answer is family with 2 kids. And you think, oh yeah, that is probably Weetabix's biggest customer. Family with 2 kids who put a lot of sugar on the cereal to make it nice. And the answer is very different. The answer is Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's and the NHS. They're the biggest customers. And Weetabix will tell you there's 72 billion breakfast occasions, although I missed mine this morning. What I like about this is we start thinking about the supermarkets buy the Weetabix, but they might not necessarily be the end consumer. And the reason why I wanted to start thinking about this, just from our perspective, is our customer and our consumer can be 2 different people. And I put up a toy shop here called Bumble and Twig in Oundle. It is such a lovely toy shop. Everything's sort of wooden and it's really, really nice ethos behind it. What I really like is, whilst it's great for the parents, it's also fun for the kids. They've kind of put little things at eye level for the kids to play with. They actually encourage people to touch and feel. Because yes, some kids will come and spend their pocket money. And yes, parents will come in to buy certain things, but how can you think about it in different ways? Are the people that, is it gifting? Is it self-consumption? Is it for learning? But also, how can you do different things in your businesses to talk to different people? And I think it was Weetabix that really sort of got me thinking about this. And Bumble and Twig, again, please follow them on social media. They've got a really lovely tone of voice. What I like about them is how they think about both the customer and the consumer, because they can be 2 different people. Everyone is our customer. A classic sales and marketing thing that we hear. Everyone is our customer. Really? Really? Further, you can start asking questions such as, where do they live? What's their status, age, I put on there, likes, dislikes, favorite music, films, and you start to get an idea of who that customer is, their political beliefs and religion, they're car driven. If they're driving a German car, they might have a little bit more money than somebody driving a French car. What supermarket they're shopping as well. And it's a really good way of understanding who your customer is. And it's a really, really simple model that you can use. And what I've done is I put a link in there for a template that you can fill in yourself. But it's a really good way of getting people to think about who their customers are and really, really understanding it. Because if you understand who your customers are, then you can sell to them, but you can also understand how you communicate to them. Just had an interesting conversation with that. And for me, if you understand where your customers are, then you can go to them with a story. And I thought I'd share with you one that Weetabix created. So they have lots and lots of different customer profiles. But this is kind of a really, really detailed one where they've looked at one of their demographics and they've gone, right, they watch X Factor, they shop in Tesco, Asda and Iceland. They like Netflix. They've obviously got young kids. When you look at the TV channels, they're like, yeah, you can tell they've got kids. And what's really interesting is when you understand that, you can start thinking about, how do I reach them? And I think that little bit of extra detail, that little bit of extra thinking around who your customer is and that avatar can really help you think about how you communicate to them. I love this. I've been into a few businesses and said, we don't do marketing. We don't need to do marketing. No, we don't do marketing. Well, that's a mistake in the thinking. Everybody does marketing. And marketing's not just doing social media. Marketing's not just doing adverts. It's so much more than that. And I've got a really lovely example from Old and Quirky. There's an antique shop in in Wellingborough. And before anybody says something rude, the old and quirky is the Smurf, not the person holding it. And what I liked about this store is they said, oh, we don't really do marketing. Yes, you do. You've got a Smurf that people can hold up and create content. Yes, you do. Your customer service is really friendly. And for me, marketing can be really, really complicated, or you can simplify it. How do you connect your potential customers and consumers to you? So there they are. How do you connect them? And it's all about storytelling. It's so much more than just social media. It's your product. Your product could be what's in the store, what's in your business. The product can be your service, your proposition. Price speaks for itself. Place, where do you sell it? And we talked about the wine chateau. You can buy it direct in the store, or you can buy it on the website. There's other places where you can get the product from. Are there other ways that you can sell and reach your customers? And then promotion, everybody's favorite. How are you going to promote your business? But marketing is all of those things. I'm using this example here, and it's from a hairdresser's in Wellingborough. I know. I went to see them to help them not to have my hair done. Would have been a bit of a wasted trip. What I really liked about this company was not only did it look great, it felt great. All of their products were ethical. They recycle everything. What they stock, you could buy the products to take home as well. And what was really, really nice about it was they'd done something different. There were two other hairdressers on that street. These guys, and we were going to have to give them a proper shout out, the Healthy Hair Company in Wellingborough. They built their product around being ethical, and the quality of their cuts was pretty good. And what I liked about it was the total thinking around the product, because there were other competitors on the same road. They stood out because of their product. Ethical, ethical, ethical. I thought it was fantastic. And sadly, I can't consume their product, but I can promote it to all of you because I think what they're doing is brilliant. And they really stood out from their competition. They had a queue. All the other people on that street were very, very quiet. So fair play to them. It just shows you that knowing your product and differentiating it makes a difference. Place, we've already talked about this. I know a lot of people are getting saying that Etsy are taking away their sales. I get that, but there's different ways that you can reach your customers from a high street perspective. Yes, you've got your stores. Do you have an online proposition? Are there other markets you can operate in? So I was working with somebody locally and they literally went, oh yeah, on a Saturday, we're now doing a market to support our business. Fantastic. Mail order. Why not? It still works. And price. What are you charging? What are your discounts? And how do you talk about that? And again, this is something that is part of marketing, but we always go straight to the promotion. Let's think about these other elements too. And then suddenly we go, oh yeah, we do marketing. But then we do like a little bit of promotion. And this is from one of my favorite restaurants in London called Seven Dials Market. And what I love about this picture, no rude comments required, is they created something where people go and make their own social media. They go and have a bit of fun. They can go and take pictures and create their own content. Quite a good idea, that. That's promotion. Other people will promote it. We're all having a little laugh and a giggle at this. But you all now know about Seven Dials Market. And there's lots of other businesses that can do really quirky and interesting things to make you remember them. There's a brilliant fried chicken restaurant in London called Chicken and Sours. And one of the things that they do is in the bill, they give you an egg, and inside there is the bill, and they give you a little tattoo that you can put on your arm that lasts for 2 weeks. Anybody that shares that on social media has the opportunity to win a free meal. Simple, brilliant, effective promotion. But there are other ways of doing this. Leaflets, newspaper, PR, social media, digital ads, radio, outdoor, sponsorship, websites. There are different ways of promoting other than just social media. And I think what's really important, what we were talking about earlier, is who are our customers? If we really understand our customers, and then we go where they are. If your customers are on social media, go and talk to them on social media. If your customers are local, what are the things that connect them? Is it local radio? Is it local leaflets? Where are they? connect them where they are, and share something that they want to tell other people about. That makes it even more powerful. One of the other mistakes that I hear all the time, oh, social media, it's easy. I'll just do a post, it'll take a couple of minutes. Social media is not easy. From somebody that posts 3 times a week, trust me, it's not easy. When you look at the really popular accounts that look absolutely immaculate, it's not easy. And one of the things that we're always told is you need to post really regularly. You need to post every day. We'll come on to that. For me, there's a different approach to social media that hopefully means that you can make less mistakes. You can get some training on social media. I'm going to share some links where you can find that. This is a picture of me in Bratislava. I went to see a client over there last year. They took me to the oldest beer hall in Bratislava, which was a little bit of a shame because I don't actually like beer. So it was slightly wasted on me. But I thought this is a really cool and interesting place. And I photographed it and I used it on my social media whilst drinking my, I think it was a Slovakian cola, which is very nice, but not beer. And there's an idea in social media that it's all about advertising. I think there's a different approach. And I'd learned this from somebody who I really respect in America called Sean Waldchef. And he talks about how can you be the documentary, not the advert? So I was telling people, oh, I'm in Bratislava, I'm doing this, 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 and this. I documented the trip, it became a blog. And I think what's really interesting, if you think about your businesses, and I was just talking to the escape room in Rushden, you're building a new escape room. Wouldn't it be great to document how you're building it without giving away the secrets of getting out? But there's a little thing where if we think about it as a business, how can we be the documentary, not the advert? Because people are interested in your stories. So all of a sudden, social media, where we think, oh, it's really easy, we'll just do something and we'll get loads of customers. Very rarely. I mean, you can hire Kim Kardashian, she's about $1 million a post. Or you can do things differently and start thinking about how do you be documentary, not the advert. You don't own your social media. I think this is something that we mistake, that we own our social media. I was a massive fan of MySpace. I loved MySpace. It was so cool. Kept in touch with my American friends on there. I've got no idea what my login is and it's disappeared. And to those watching online, do you remember Friends Reunited? You don't own it. The information's gone. Twitter is having all kinds of challenges now. It's X. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You do not own it. The social media companies own it. If you get kicked off, if you forget your passwords, if it all goes horribly wrong, you don't own your social media. And I think it's really important to understand and to really get your head around that. What you do own is your email list. How can you build up an email list where you can share your stories and messages? And all businesses that I've spoke to here today have got the opportunity to build that email list. So how can you get people onto that? Because you do actually own that. Social media, free training. This is being a beauty salon in Wellingborough. I should have got my eyebrows done, but didn't have time. What I liked about it is they offered the opportunity, for people to create their own content whilst in there, and the people in there were lovely. So a few places to get free training on social media. This program we did a talk about this a couple of months ago. I put a link in there for the YouTube. And again, we can email out the presentation to you. This is a whole presentation just on social media. There's also an organization called Wenter, which is available to everybody in Northants. It offers free training. And again, I put the link on there. They've currently got a program for Instagram, Facebook, and Google Garage. And again, if you want to do Google Garage, there's a link to that as well. This will teach you the basics of Google. They'll also tell you how great their adverts are. You need to figure that out for yourself. But it's well worth knowing the basics. And all of the training on there is free. So for me, social media is not easy, but you can get training on how to do it in a better way for free. But when social media is done well, it's pretty awesome. Northamptonshire's favourite breakfast cereal, Weetabix with baked beans, went absolutely crazy. I'm an Arsenal fan, and it was painful to put this one on, but can I get a free milkshake? And the Tesco replied, when Arsenal win the Champions League, which I thought was a little bit, well, anyway, I'm going to suffer in silence on that. When you get social media right, you can have a lot of fun with it. One of the tips I would give you is go and look at other people's social media that you like, and why do you like it? And we've talked before, how do you stop the scroll? Comedy, it is inspiration, and it's education. I'm not sure the Weetabix and baked beans was education. And I put some on here. Done well looks awesome. I put a couple of local businesses on here. Blue Bamboo in Oundle, just doing some really, really cool stuff. And just it's got a nice way about it, and they're building customers from it. I've also put on there Pinky Swifts, lovely business from Northamptonshire that is building a following on social media. They're up to a couple of thousand. Specsavers. If you ever want to learn how to do social media well, Specsavers. You should have gone Specsavers. What a great line that is. They did their social media in reverse when somebody put the roundabout in the wrong place. Well done, Specsavers. What I like about that is, what can you learn from them? The only other caveat with social media is, and I know it's really tempting because we've all had that one stroppy customer, and there's a little temptation to go on social media and rant about that customer, and we've all had that one. Do not, social media ranting, do not do it. That is a mistake. Have it over a nice coffee, but do not rant about customers online, even if it is really tempting, and we all know who we're talking about. So just have a little think about, do the ranting over a coffee, not on social media, just to avoid a little mistake there. I get told this quite a lot when I work with small businesses. I never look at my competitors. Why not? They're there. Go and look at your competitors. Well, I don't need to. It's always worth having a look. And I give the example of a couple of people who I've worked with in the past who I really, really respect. One was the marketing director at Jack Daniels. Global marketing director at Jack Daniels would go into a bar and would go and order all of their competitors' products. I mean, not at once. That would be quite a lot. But what they do is they go in and have a conversation to learn as much as they could about the drinks, about why people were buying it. They talked to the bar people because they wanted to understand what was good about their competitors' products. And then this one I was really surprised by, but really liked. There was another guy I was talking to, Matthew Hodges. He was the global marketing director at Godiva Chocolates. And he would get his teams to get every single chocolate box from every competitor. They put them out on the table and have a team meeting going, right, what's good about this? What's bad about this? I mean, I like the idea of having a chocolate meeting myself, but what was really nice about it was that you've got a brand that is as well known as Godiva going, well, let's have a look at what everybody else is doing because we're good, but other people are good as well. What can we learn from them? And this brought me onto the idea of benchmarking. And I love benchmarking. And this is a picture of Milestone Florist, who do beautiful delivery. Again, that sounds like I've done an advert for Milestone Florist. Sandy, you have to send me some cash for this. What I like about these guys is their delivery is fantastic. The way they present the flowers is fantastic. I was very lucky. Somebody bought me a bunch and they came to the house and they looked fantastic. So what I'd like to think about is, what do our competitors do well and what do they do badly? And there's an idea that I work with called start, stop, continue. And where it becomes really, really interesting is, what can we start, what can we stop doing, and what do we continue doing? And I think looking at our competitors is a great way of thinking about this for ourselves. What can we learn from our competitors? What can we learn from people that do what we do really well? I don't want to copy them. That's boring. What I want to do is learn from them and do something better. How do they share their stories? So we just talked about social media. Are our competitors really good at sharing their stories? And again, we were talking about escape rooms earlier. What are the escape rooms that share their stories really, really well, that make you want to go there? What is that magic ingredient that gets that engagement? How do they do their marketing? And I think it's one of those things where you can spend a little bit of time doing this benchmarking and get so much value for your own businesses. That's not to get scared by your competitors, because yes, sometimes you can look at your competitors, oh my gosh, they're so much better than us. Nobody's thinking about you the way that you're thinking about you. And that's a really nice caveat. How can we exceed what they're doing in terms of service and proposition? So if you've got somebody local to you that might be, say, another wine store, how can you make your service and proposition be even better? How can you go beyond what they're doing? And how can we be the best of what we are? And for me, it's about looking at other people in our industry that are absolutely top of their game and going, how are they top of their game? What can we learn from them? So instead of avoiding our competitors, I would encourage you to embrace them and go and have a look at what they do. What can you learn from them? So I wanted to summarize, and yes, it's a picture of me in another hairdresser's. This is Esme Abbott. And I quite like the fact that she encourages all her customers to take a picture by the ooh la la, which I thought was very Kylie Minogue. What I want you to think about is that we all do sales in our business. And I think it's really, really important that everybody embraces that. And it's a really good message to take away today. Everybody in your organization does sales. How can we add value to our customers? Let's not sell. How do we add value to the people we work with? How can we really get to know our customers? Because if we know them, then we can talk to them and add value to them. We do marketing. Everybody does marketing. And it's one of those expressions I want to outlaw. We don't do marketing. It should be banned. How can we rock social media? And again, thinking about those mistakes we can avoid and the training that we can add to our own knowledge. And also benchmark. We talked about benchmarking from our competitors, but we can also benchmark from other people's social media. Who does social media really well? What can we learn from them? And how can we rock it ourselves? Any questions? Questions in the room?
I'm trying to remember.
That's really.
Yeah, Richard, I suppose one of the things when people are doing business plans is around sort of how much resource do you put into sales, marketing, promotion, and is that something that you should plan at the start of the year for your business plan, or is that something that's sort of a hybrid? Because obviously opportunities come along that you may want to do. So should you set a sales and marketing budget for the year?
That's a good question. I think lots of businesses try and attempt to do that. I would always say that the way that the world is at the moment, you need to be really, really flexible. And I think that flexibility allows you to decrease because sometimes costs can go up, but also allows you to increase. So if opportunities come up, how can you take them? And there's things like awards that might come up through the year. There might be one of those ones where, you know, opportunities come up for you to connect people. If you don't do sales and marketing, then your business is going to die. And I think that's why I'm almost saying there's a really lovely expression. Sales is too important to leave to the sales team. Marketing is too important to leave to the marketing team. And I think that if you don't invest in it, the business is going to contract. I think how you do that is the interesting thing. And there's so many different ways of doing it. But I think having that flexibility is key. And you have to have not only a flexible budget, but a flexible mindset. And that's the way that you get the most out of that, definitely.
I find it difficult with the clients keeping the them to be consistent. They like to try and dip in and out and get the results on like a 4-week turnaround. It's like that's quite a consistent thing I'm finding, because it doesn't work for them after 4 weeks. Like, oh, that's it. I'm not doing that again. How do you get past that barrier with people?
Do you know, it's really interesting because I have that with my own business. So I do coaching and mentoring and business consultancy, and people are like, well, I've done it for 4 weeks. I've invested into this. Where are the results? And I'm like, well, the results are going to come in 3 to 6 months. And one of the ways that I think is really interesting to help that process is when you show them case studies. And you show them cases, but what I'll also do is go and encourage them to talk to people that have been working over a longer period of time where they've seen the results. So go talk to them. Just be really, really open. And then I'll also be quite blunt and say, if you're expecting that in that amount of time, you'd be better wasting your money elsewhere and not getting what you want from it. Actually, I'm quite honest with people saying, if you're expecting miracles, then, save up for a Kim Kardashian post. But actually, if you want to grow and you want to improve, this is how it works. It takes time. Here's an example of how it's worked. And if you want to go and talk to people, here they are. And that's one of the ways I've got over that barrier. I think there is an education piece. And one of the things that I think would be really interesting, especially for you, when you talk about be the documentary, not the advert. I think if you documented some of the stories of your clients that it's really, really worked, that documentary style, I think, would allow people a way in to understand how it works, because not everybody has the understanding of your proposition. You can almost make that documentary of them and invite them to come and explore it with you. It might be a different approach that gets that results and hopefully shifts the mindset, because I know what you mean about that closed mindset. And I think those real life examples, that openness and that documentary style might be some of those ways to break that down.
Say for businesses targeting B2C and B2B.
Yeah.
How do you think we should balance the social media posts? Because obviously it's a different audience, it's a different message. Do you think is it better to focus B2C on some platforms and B2B on different one?
I think what's really interesting way of thinking about it is, where are your customers? So your customers, if you're looking for the B2B, where are they? And if you're looking at that, they're more likely to be on LinkedIn, potentially on Twitter, potentially certain trade journals and exhibitions. Where the B2C, they're going to be on different platforms. I think what's really important for your business is you share that message, the message that is consistent between both sets of customers. Quality, great stories, lovely liquor. And I think all of a sudden those stories are the same, B2B or B2C. How you tell them will be slightly different. But I think what's really interesting for you is the platforms. And there will be some overlap. There'll be some B2B customers that will be on Instagram. There'll be some B2C customers that will be on LinkedIn. But I think the focus, especially for your business, the B2B, is picking the right platforms. And I think LinkedIn would be a great way for you to get that message across, certainly on the B2B. But remember, the heart and soul of the business, that's the reason to buy from you. It's that magic that you bring to it. And that goes across both sets of customers. And I think that's the wonderful bit that you should be sharing.
No other questions?
Okay.
We don't have any questions online, so thank you for that, Richard.
Just one final thing. What I'll do is I'll also share a link where I can send a guide on how to benchmark and do a little bit of branding. So we'll share that link either via email or in the chat. And that will be a free download to help people with the benchmarking exercise.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Richard. Some extremely useful stuff as usual with that.